Okay, guys, listen, welcome to um, another I wouldn't say episode, but a great conversation with one of my dear mentors, DC Cordova. I am Nicola Smith Jackson. I'm an entrepreneur and in the network marketing industry for nearly a decade, and have done great things and learned so much about my industry, but took it to the next level because of the program we're going to be talking to you about a little bit later called Money and You, a Business School Accelerated. And so we have been bringing you some phenomenal gifts lately, conversations from a phenomenal business mogul, a transformational leader that is bringing forward, I love it, this beautiful work that has been helping entrepreneurs for nearly 4 decades now. And I'm one of those entrepreneurs, so honored to have learned and be able to use so much that is making the world so much better for 100% of humanity. And we're not hurting, but we're helping people. And so we talked about some powerful business principles and distinctions that are just timeless. If you were to think about a lot of great works like the Laws of Success, or books like Think and Grow Rich and all these type of things, you're going to hear some of these things, but you're going to actually see how you can put it into action. It's one thing about reading things, another thing experiencing it and seeing it in full effect in your life and in your business. And so you're going to be hearing from DC Cordova. She's going to introduce herself. However, we're going to be talking about today some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make and how to avoid them, how you're going to learn from them, how you're going to bounce back from them, and be even just stronger, smarter, and just adding more value to whatever industry you're in, as well as the people around you, making just making things better. And so I want to introduce to you Dame DC Cordova. DC, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm in the middle of some major projects. We have a big project coming up in November in Cancun, one of our advanced programs. And one of the things that I like is that I'm actually on the ground, even though what I mean by that, I'm on the ground in the trenches working as an entrepreneur, even though I don't have to do that. I think that we get to a place where we're so excited about our vision. And there are things that occur in the world, like today we had the news about the cancellation, that we are going to have with the Paris climate change. The great thing about it is that it can't be canceled until the day after the next presidential elections, which will be 4 years from now. So it's all talk, really. And but it does disconnect us from the world. And so my whole work, my whole adult life has been about how to power up with entrepreneurial education. And I started very young because I was a very unhappy 24-year-old in the legal system, an official court reporter. And prior to that, I had been an interpreter, Spanish and English, in the legal system, medical system, and all around the professional legal and medical services in Los Angeles. And prior to that, I had been an assistant legal secretary from the time I think I was 20. So I spent 8 years in the legal system, and I think the Great Spirit put me there so that I could be in the trenches of human suffering. I worked in the criminal courts building in Los Angeles. If anybody saw the O.J. Simpson case, that big building they would show every time they would show the trial, that was the building that I actually worked in. It's called CCB, the Criminal Courts Building in downtown LA. So what that allowed me to do is to really become very savvy about human behavior, a quick 8-year, accelerated process on learning about humanity. And then I learned about this business school for entrepreneurs through a series of circumstances. It was the first of its kind. I was only 28 years old. I ended up attending that program, learning the principles so well. I ended up, inheriting all the intellectual property by 1985. And so I have been spending in rooms since actually 1976. I have been working on myself. I have been watching people work on themselves. I've been watching people learn about business, entrepreneurship, watching the Tony Robbins, we trained him when he was only 23 years old, to seeing him where he went, and to see and that's just one of the very many graduates of the Money in You program, and then also the Accelerated Business School for Entrepreneurs, which of course Tony taught at. He didn't attend it, but he taught there. But one of the things that ended up happening through the years is that I have learned so much about human behavior. And one of our mentors, his name is Mr. Fuller. Bucky Fuller taught us something very powerful, which is the biggest mistake that human beings make is to make themselves wrong for making mistakes. So he was the one that encouraged us to call mistakes learning experiences, because human beings were designed to learn from their mistakes. So one of the things that we really wanted to have an opportunity today is to talk about that, because there are so many people that get stuck, and you and I are going to have a session next week where we're going to be talking about getting unstuck, especially in your industry, in MLM, network marketing. It's really interesting to see. I mean, people get stuck in every field. But when you are really focusing and you have a lot of systems in place and you still get stuck, then clearly that is something that's happening within ourselves. Yeah. So it's better for us to start with mistakes and talk about them, discuss them. And this is something that we're like little kitties. We hide our little doo-doo in the because we don't want, anybody to see it or to smell it or to be with it. That's what I love about cats. They're so clean. And so one of the things though is that we all make mistakes. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you, Nicola, so my introduction is pretty much, I have earned the right to speak about some subjects. Mistakes, I am a master of. I can definitely speak about mistakes all day long, but I also have solutions. So I just wanted to ask you, how do you feel, Nicola? What is your experience of mistakes?
Wow. I could say I have mastered a lot of things what people would consider, and I felt were mistakes. But after you've been coming through Money and You, I know that was exactly what I needed to go through to bring me to where I am today. And so now I'm grateful for mistakes. I'm grateful for those learning lessons. And, I was that person that, although I did what people would consider great in school, and it was seeming that I was going to be an attorney. It's so funny that so many of the things DC and I, like she worked in the court system. I was, going to be an attorney. Her mom was a hairstylist. My mom is a hairstylist. Yes. And then I was a hairstylist for 20 years. And yes. And so the thing is that one of the things that was a mistake and what it appeared to be was that I left high school. It was thought that I was going to go to college, be an attorney. And when I went to college, I actually quit. And to my family, who came from a West Indian background where school and, of course, because they were ruled by the British, Jamaica, ruled by the British. So education, school was extremely, extremely important. And you would consider pretty much like a loser when you do things like quit college. And I did. And I quit college, and it was very hard on the relationship with my mom and I for many years, because that was the thing, is that you were going to go and be an attorney, because attorney is prestigious, right? You don't leave college and go be a hairstylist. That seems like one of the biggest mistakes of your life. And I had to live with that. And then, I wasn't hanging around all of the best people, right? And so I ended up with, I would say, relationships that I had 2 children out of wedlock. And that was like, what are you doing, right? You quit college. Now you're a single mom. And then now you're saying that this is what you're going to do, be a hairstylist? Are you serious? Like that seemed like the biggest mistakes ever, right? And then I do this crazy thing later on, and I get married. And get married, and we're a blended family, and things were rough. It wasn't so easy. And now in the midst of that, I'm this network marketer, right? People are like, you're really a loser. You go into network marketing, loser, right? How do they do that? I don't know the L. Loser, right?
I think
Network
it's
marketing.
title
Yes, loser, right? Biggest mistake. And network marketing was where I actually made my first $1 million. The resilience, all those things that I went through, all those what people call mistakes, strengthened me to be able to overcome the fear of rejection, overcome things of what people would think about me. And I began to learn who I really was, and go with my heart. And fast forward now, I've done what people would say, I've gone to the top of 2 companies, have helped to lead hundreds of thousands of people to be entrepreneurs, and walk them through their mistakes to say, it's okay. And Money and You helped me understand that those were not mistakes. It was your journey, and embrace them. And it took you closer to who you are. It made you be able to overcome those obstacles, and now start understanding that's a part of who you are, and don't deny that part. And so mistakes, I'm still making them. They haven't stopped. I do more strategic planning, but I'm finding that there's no way. I mean, think about it. I would started having some success, and my teenage kids start saying it was a mistake for me to even go into network marketing. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? They're like, we didn't ask for this life. Because when they started doing better, their families started doing better than their friends, they were ridiculed because we started doing better. And so now they started feeling guilty about having wealth or having a little bit more. And I didn't know about how to teach about deservability and this type of thing until I went through Money and You. So mistakes are something that's just inevitable. I don't care who you are, what you're trying to accomplish. It's inevitable, but it does not mean you cannot have success.
Yes, yes. Well, the thing is that, so that's where mistakes are really learning experiences that we're having. And human beings were designed to learn from their mistakes. And so the next time you make a mistake, the first thing that happens, of course, is that we make ourselves so wrong. And, and what they say, hind 2020, we have 2020 hindsight. Because, when we look at especially big mistakes and things, thank God that I've never had a fatal mistake, but I remember how horrible it was in court, especially in traffic court, when things would occur, when people had made some major mistake and it cost somebody a life. It's like the poor people, for the rest of their lives, they were going to be running and running and running that scenario in their heads, that how they could have done it differently. Now, that's a very extreme case. But one of the things that I find that when I'm working with people, and when I used to do more one-on-one, which I hardly do anymore, except I do mentorship, events, a whole group, which is much better and easier. But one of the things that I used to like really get people unhooked, I used to go and ask them, and this is, by the way, for all those of you that are working in Nicola's team, and I know a lot of you are in meetings right now. The other day, I love being with your whole team, and I know they want to be here and they're looking forward to the recording. So I want to say hi to all of them, because I know they're going to listen to the recording later, as will quite a few of my friends. And so one of the things that happens, my brain went another way. For your group and for many others, is like when people stop producing, they got into a loop of being fearful of making a mistake, or that they're not going to do the right thing. And this is why, even with children, with little tiny children, it's really important to teach them that life is a process of learning experiences, and that mistakes are going to happen all the time, and they're going to occur until the day we die. But the thing is, how do we deal with them? And the 3 deep breaths, immediately when something occurs and we realize, oh no, we should have not done that, or we should have not taken that route, or we should have, never done that business deal. It looks so great, blah, blah, blah. So what happens is that at that point we take 3 deep breaths. And then I love Mark Victor Hansen, who co-authored The Chicken Soup for the Soul with Jack Canfield. They are our biggest graduates because they have sold almost 1 billion of those books. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I mean, Kiyosaki, my old business partner, Rich Dad Poor Dad, has sold quite a bit, but not, nearly 1 billion. And Mark Victor Hansen has a great line that says, next time you're in the middle of your biggest mistakes, just remember that this is going to make a great story, a great book, or a great movie.
And it is true. Wow. The mistakes are where you hear, I don't know any successful person that their story to success is not encompassed with their mistakes. And that's actually what draw us as people. And that's why we know it's natural to make mistakes. What you're sharing, it just like clicked, because most people who are successful, they've had, especially the rags to riches stories, people love them, right? And it seems like just a whole bunch of hard luck and a whole bunch of mistakes and a whole bunch of mishaps, a whole bunch of upsets, a whole bunch of everything. And then now this beautiful story, this story that this person blossoms, and then you're looking at them and these people become iconic. Why? Because they lived through their mistakes.
Yes.
Because they lived through them. And they're like, I came out. And then the biggest lesson is that so can you. Mistakes make people be afraid of taking risks.
Well, that's what defines a person.
Yes.
You run into people that were the football hero, the cheerleader, the most devoted to be the most successful person. Mm-hmm. And then they come out there. And sometimes I wonder whether if we have had a lot of success in high school or in college, if sometimes that may not be detrimental because it doesn't set you up, or to coddle our children and to spoil them too much. I know my mother did her best not to spoil me. Like even when I wanted a car when I was 15, she says, well, you want a car, get a job. I'll pay for half of your car, but you need to get a job. You also need to pay for insurance and registration and gasoline. So just remember, this is not just buying the car. And of course, by the time I was 16, I had my own car. I had 3 jobs. I wanted a car more than anything. In those days, you could drive at 16 years old. And so one of the things that is really, I think, important sometimes to really teach our children and be prepared that life is going to be a series of mistakes that we're correcting. And so when we begin to embrace them, and that's what happens in Money and You. In Money and You, because of the teachings of Buckminster Fuller, people begin to forgive themselves. Not that we do, you remember, we don't do forgiveness processes in Money and You. It's an entrepreneurial program. We're going to be talking about money, success, the rules of the game. And there is a part where we do go into the essence of certain words that can be emotional, because some of the words are like the words like trust, which a lot of times mistakes are made because we trust so much. Yes. And so there is a period of time, an evening, that we do doing that. But Money and You is really a business course. But what happens is that people begin to remember the mistakes that they made. And in my chapter 7 of magical exercises, in my Access to Cash is the name of the book. You can find in Amazon. But if you go to myaccesstocash.com, you will find that there's some bonuses there, and then you can go buy it for only $9.95 or something. And download that book, and in there, when we begin to clear our money mistakes, there's something really interesting that happens, because we're no longer now wishing to have, we're always wishing to have this amazing life, but there's like these things that hold you down. There's like these weights, and those are actual judgments of self and others. They are judgments of the mistakes that we made, and then also lack of forgiveness for those, especially the bigger the mistake. And that could be a divorce. That could be something that happened with a child, something that happened with your mother, something that happened with a best friend, and something that happened to self that maybe we didn't speak up, something occurred. So what I want people to really understand that you need to really get in touch and allow yourself to remember and to easily release them. You can literally, my friends Heiko and Selena, I think you met them in Malaysia.
Yes.
Admire. They do this process called I Release.
Yes.
And to come to Cancun. And it's like, I now release, I now release the judgments I have of myself for that mistake that I made back in 1968 or whatever. So what are some of the things you do, Nicola, to release and to let go of the mistakes that you have made?
Well, that one of those exercises, the I release, that I still use that. I still use that because you do have to release when you're building big businesses. Things don't always go exactly the way you want. People don't always. You'll learn about that, like the game where people don't always do what they say they're going to do or play fair. And how do you still win? I mean, still win even when people intend for you to lose. But I pray and I meditate. I let everyone know that each and every day I start off with prayer, and I do meditate in the letting go process. And what I've found is that in there, when you can forgive yourself, it's easier to forgive others. Most of the time, when you are holding your own self in a place of unforgiveness, that's where it normally stems from, because how you truly feel in the core is what you are going to reflect onto others. That's the piece. So I had to work on that for years, right? Because things happen to you where, again, the game we talked about, the trust, responsibility, not only responsibility for others, but take responsibility for your reactions and how you feel. Those were things that processes that I will never, ever, ever forget. And I have to use them daily. Sometimes, you went to school, 12 years, high school, whatever, gone all the way through high school. And some of those things I can't even remember. Like, how do I use that? Where do I use that? How do I make that, make my life better? And how do I make money with that? Right? I don't know. But the things that I've learned through Money and You is put me where I have systems. And we're not talking about systems only about like what a person would see going through McDonald's, the system, the franchise system, how they do the fries, how they do. It's how you process yourself to move to the next level. And that when you get to a place, you know exactly what to do. These are technologies that I've been able to use and continue to process and progress. And then understand, like, what does that mean to be, we talk about perturbation, right? Like, to assess how am I feeling and know that I can take control of that feeling and get a desired result. Because most of the time when we're feeling a way we don't want to feel, we continuously get that undesired result.
Yes.
And the same person you're showing up as in business is the same person you're showing up as in life. There are some continuities there, and you can catch yourself and you can make those course corrections without the judgment, even if you've fallen back, right? I've done it, fallen back, and you say, wait a minute, that's part of not the old self, that was part of the self that wasn't aware, that wasn't awake. I am now aware. I know that if I stay here, this is what I'm gonna get, but that's not what I want. And so it has helped me so much in business. It's helped me so much in my personal life. It has helped me make decisions that if I had not had these processes, there are a lot of people that probably would not be in my life. And there are some people who are not in my life because of these processes. And I've been able to be a happier person when I want to. And you just show up bigger and better in everything you do. And so I'm grateful again for that invitation those years ago, DC. And thank you even for reminding me, because, Money and You, once you become a grad of Money and You, you're in, I wouldn't say another world, but you're definitely in a community that it's not like you're seeing this everywhere you go. As a matter of fact, most of the places that you go, and even in big business, you're seeing things that are not what you're learning. Even people who are doing big business, you're like, wait a minute, they need Money and You. right? They need business school accelerated. They need, some processes, right?
Yes.
But that's where you can say you can help. You can just invite people to learn about Money and You at no matter what level of business they are at.
Yes.
And I've not seen a person, no matter what level of business they are at, whether you have no business or you're just in the beginning of your business state or you're a huge mogul, I've not seen any of them. That's where you're talking about that humanity piece. We're all in this together. Come out and not say, "OMG, that was like one of the most intense, most valuable 4 days of my life." There's no way weeks go by and you forget what happened. There's no way you could expect that 4 days can transform your life in such a big way. So this program is transformational. That's what it is, right?
Yes. Well, and the thing is that what I want everyone to really understand is that the more that you embrace, the more that you talk about it, even have a conversation with your team. Like when I am building like a long-term relationships, one of the things we do an exercise called something I don't want you to know about me is. Something I don't want you to know about me is. And a lot of times I notice that I don't want people to know about me is the mistakes that I have made. And there are certain mistakes that are actually, I think, divinely created. Because like, for instance, the biggest learning experience I ever had, when I look back, I can't imagine how I could have prevented it because I was in the midst of the financial crisis of 97, 98 that happened in Asia. It brought all of Asia down to its knees. It's like being in the middle of 1929. And then ultimately, if you take radical responsibility, I took radical responsibility, which is that I had put my little body in there. But there was no way for me to know, even though when you look back, there were the signs that were there. And it was something, there was many, many opinions of why the financial crisis happened. The one that is the most accepted is that the West brought down the great tiger, the East, because they were getting too strong, too fast, too powerfully. And that was a big mistake that was made by the Western countries because they said never, never again. So when the United States had its financial crisis in 2008, it did affect quite a bit, but nothing compared to how the United States was affected. Yeah. So that was when people in 2000 and in 1997, 98, those countries began to look for customers all over the place. They began to look, we actually opened the world for them. That's what we did, because we brought them to their knees, and that is not a nice thing or a good thing to do. So I was in the middle of all of that. And then the personal mistakes that I made. And when I think about it, when I look at it, they truly were learning experiences. Because one of the mistakes I made that I don't think was a mistake, but if you were to look at straight money-wise, was a mistake, because I took my nest egg, and what I did was I kept paying for 8 individuals and kept paying for rent, for things on a business that there was no way that it was going to turn around because of the economy. People wanted to go to programs, so we were bringing in about $100,000 a month in programs and in products. We were doing fantastic in the heart of Singapore, and it all stopped in a week, so there was no more income. And in Singapore, they don't have welfare, they don't have unemployment. So my employees and the people that we were with were absolutely dependent on us. And if they weren't being paid, they had nowhere to go. So my compassionate heart continued to do it. And it cost me my marriage. My husband did not want me to do that. He felt like it was my fault. And I'm the one that chose to do that, to continue to pay. And he was right. I was the one, because it was my nest egg, and I'm the one that chose it. And I continue to do. But not only that, I refused to bankrupt a company that had the name Excellerated. That is my brand. And Excellerated Singapore is a company that would have taken anybody 5 minutes. And here I am teaching about money and business at business school. There was a huge explanation. The 97, 98 crisis, everybody in the Asia Pacific understands. And when you say that in a room full of Asians, they start shaking because everybody remembers. It's like 1929, the USA. A little bit 2008 if you're in real estate, money, finances. 2008 is like, so, but not everyone in the United States felt it the way that people in real estate and finances felt it. So what happened was that I then chose not to bankrupt the company, and with the support of a wonderful man, Paul Schumann, went and negotiated with all the people that I owe money to, almost $500,000, and asked them for time. I just said, I can only send you $50 to $100 a month because I'm sending a lot of $50 and $100 a month, but you will be paid and I will do it. It might take me 10 years, and some of them did take 10 years. And so if you don't mind, please, don't pursue me. Don't say anything bad about me. I am here to pay you. But I couldn't do it, so I had to have Paul. I was on the corner crying while he was negotiating. This is a good woman. She wants to pay you back, but she can't because she now has to restart her business from the United States. Hopefully her business will really grow again in Asia. But right now, this is all she can do. But this is what's going to happen. So when I look back, it was like I should have just pulled out. I should have just hold on to my, to my nest egg. I should have just come back to the United States when the US in 98, 99 was thriving, and we did come back. But after I went through my nest egg, I should have just said to people, sorry, it was the financial crisis, can't pay you. Nobody else is paying you. Why should I pay you back? But there was this energy that occurred in my body that I remember my ex-husband said to me, you are in debt for $500,000. He didn't say we. And I said, he just said you. He didn't say we. And then the first thought out of my head was, I have made $500,000 many times. Easy. I was so happy. That was my thought. Piece of cake. But then when the reality hit, it was hard. I have to tell you, it took a few years. But you know what? There are so many great things that came out of it. So many great things, including that I am now a survivor and a successful survivor of 97, 98. When you tell that story in Asia, it's like, girl, you rocked it, because many people did not survive it. So, and they had to start all over again. I did. I just had to move back to the United States. So what looks like the worst, if you can just pull out, just bring it out, tell the story, talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your team, and just say, and this is what I learned. And what were the gifts? What were the gifts? Nicola, if you look back at your life, when you think about it, it's like, for me, I know why you quit college. And I know why you went into hair. I mean, hair is so creative and fun, and you are with a bunch of wonderful people, and you get to express, you get to have fun. It was your only life. What the hell are you going to be doing? I was saved from being an attorney.
I walked in the middle of, I was leaving. I tried to hold on to what other people wanted me to do and what I really wanted to do. So I could remember getting on the bus, public transportation, leaving the hair salon, going down to Georgia State University. And I remember one time I stood in the middle of the square when people were changing classes and all these students just walking around. And I just stood there and I looked around and I said, I don't belong here. And I stopped going, and I couldn't tell my mother. And that was so horrible, because honesty is so next to trust. And I'd been raised that no matter how bad it was, tell the truth. And that was bad. And I didn't have the courage to tell the truth. I was going back and forth, still leaving my mom's house and going to the salon. And I never told her I wasn't going to school, because I was always the studious student. Go to school, do the right thing, do my chores, do whatever my mom told me to do. And that was like being rebellious. That was being in my culture. That was being disrespectful. It was all these things. And guess what it brought on? Shame. It brought on shame. And when I finally had the courage enough to let my mom know I wasn't in school anymore, it was very difficult. It was difficult for years because I had a sister that was 5 years younger than me, and she came up through school, and then she did go to college, and she finished college, and so, you know, I was the oldest girl, and it was like, it was always guilt. It was always shame. And so I had where I almost felt like I had to prove to people I'm going to be successful. And I had to let that go.
Yes.
And just do me. And I ended up becoming the first 7-figure earner in my family. And it took so many years. My mom said, when I no longer needed the approval, she said, you broke generational curses. You know what that was? That was the fears. That was the okay to make the mistakes. And I was like a public spectacle, not only in my family, a lot of people was like a public spectacle. Like, okay, how many more times she's going to fall on her face and still look cute falling on her face, because I always kept my head up. But there were some things I had to deal with me. Yes. And so that's why now I'd never, ever want to do it differently, because that has helped me become a powerful leader in our industry. Because when people come to me and they're saying, my life is just not right, or I need your help, or I'm trying to come up out of this situation that's holding me back, I understand them. They're seeing me now, but I understand them. And I'm like, that's what's going to make you, that's what's going to qualify you to do great things. Those things we call mistakes. I love this lesson on today. We've done 3 of these so far. I think this one is like one of my favorite, because still to this day, different things have happened in my life, with my children, my marriage, and people would still talking about me. Like, they're still whispering about me, but I'm not whispering about myself anymore.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That is so empowering.
Yes.
And so that has just helped me. And going through Money and You, I remember when we first went to business school, Accelerated, I went to Malaysia first. And when we did that, the circle, we had teams. And I had people from all over the world who now they're such a powerful place in my heart, where we were able to share these mistakes openly. We no longer felt shame about them. And it was men, it was women. I mean, we had this one big, you know, big burly, you know, we're just crying, just cleansing ourselves. And I went over to Malaysia by myself, 30 hours of travel, didn't know anyone, and left with real friends where I didn't have to put on masks.
Yes.
And it helped me just like shoot like a superstar. And I want people to experience this, you know, between that and then come back to Money and You. I'm so wanting people to experience this. And guess what? We're going through perturbation to get people to experience it. Yeah. But I had to even today say, I want people to experience this. They don't have to stay on the outside anymore, wondering how they can really realize their dreams by first kind of getting in touch with themselves. I don't care about the whispers. Literally. I see myself now, and when I look myself in the mirror, I love what I see. Not from the outside, like from the inside, from the core of how I feel about myself. And you know what happens with that? That's how you start feeling about other people. Yeah. And that's where transformation comes in. Like, it's like my work, it's my purpose to help transform other people, help them to realize that about themselves, and that the biggest mistakes are not mistakes at all. They are learning lessons. Yeah. It makes us better. It makes us better.
And I think that, and that's what we become leaders then, and we become Pied Pipers to others that go through that. I think that that's why I can talk to a lot of young people, even though I'm in my 60s now. People say I get invited to different things. And one time I was talking to, in LA, I was talking to a bunch of kids, and high school kids. And I remember thinking, oh my God, how am I going to speak to a bunch of high school kids? And literally this teenager inside of me came up and said, well, telling them the story about your boyfriend that died is a really good story to start with. And the
Yeah.
fact that you were pregnant and didn't know it, and then, then he's dead and then the baby dies, that will get him. And that will get him paying attention. And then what happened to you, the choices that you had to make. I had a choice once my friends were dying, going to jail, killing each other, going to Vietnam and doing all these things. And the strength and the courage that it took for you to stand up and choose, success, and choose education, and choose my heart. That's what I really did in many ways without knowing what I was doing. So every single moment, whether you are 18 or you are 44 or you are 67, you at all times you have choices. And this is something that again, I mentioned this before. Actually, this is our fourth Zoom. We've been having fun.
Oh, it's four. It's four. Okay.
And
so great.
One of the I have mentioned this before, that it's really important for us to give ourselves choices.
Yes.
Give yourself choices, because if you don't allow yourself to do it, to look at all the choices that you have, then you feel trapped and you feel up against the wall. So no matter how bad it looks, you need to take a look at, and people say, I have no choice. Yes, you do have choices. It's just that sometimes we say that because that particular choice is so hard to do. So don't lie to yourself in the middle of something. You can get up and leave. You can stay. Those are two choices. Okay. Then there is a third choice, which is something that you haven't thought about yet. And then there's another choice, which is to go ask for help from people that might give you other choices. So you can either stay, you can go, or you can also ask for help. That's another choice. And then when you ask for help, there's going to be some other choices that are going to come up here. So now all of a sudden you have maybe 5 choices.
Yeah.
But I think that the part about the mistake that people make is not giving themselves choices and saying very disempowering things to themselves. So what I love, for all of you, please come back. Are we going to do one on Saturday? Are we going to do, no, you can't, because
we have the training. Yeah, we'll be in training on Saturday.
At the same time, right?
Yes, Monday at 7. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to do one on picking yourself up. Oh, no, the distinctions on networking.
Yes.
Sales. It's not just for network marketers, but also in sales.
Yeah, we're going to learn all of what all the top network marketers have shared with DC who've come through Money and You. Just know that the best of the best in every industry has been highly, highly attracted and recommended to the Money and You program. And people want to be the best of the best, but they don't know how to get there. Get the information from the best of the best. That's what you do. And that's what we do. And that's what I've done. And DC will definitely categorize them as masters. She's learned from masters, and
they were masters. One woman had 700,000 under Shackley. She had 700,000 in her downline. She's a Money and You Business School graduate. Then we had the Noni Jews, King and Queen. They were in Malaysia or Indonesia, Bali or something.
Yeah.
They had the most largest networking. Then we had in Singapore, we had the top network marketers. What happened was that they just started bringing each other because they found out, and then they began to use Money and You. They would send like 25 of their top lines to us. And the reason they did that was because it was cheaper for them to pay for a Money and You course than for them to get the hotel, the trainers, the food, the paperwork, and all that. It was so expensive for them to get the best from America. And then they began to train each other. So we used to have 265 people in Money and You. And
Yeah.
sometimes there would be half the room was in network marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that we were covering that. It's just that the business success model, you learn from masters. Usually a network marketing company has been set up by a master and by somebody that has a very strong niche. It's a niche. And then they teach you how to leverage that niche through systems. This is, please forgive me if you read it in my book, and I say this all the time. Look, if you're not good at sales, find a fantastic network marketing company, sales for free from them, because they have some of the best sales
training.
The first thing is find 10 people that you can sell to. That is true in any field.
Right.
Anyway, but don't get me started. I'll talk about that on Monday.
Yeah.
And then of course, then you have the systems, and then you create synergy amongst yourselves. You have a team. You have an aligned team that you work with. Then you create synergy, and then you create results. So the business model is actually, after, you could almost say, it was actually a real estate company, but you could say that it is network marketing company. So when I hung out with some of the best, one of my BFFs used to make $300,000 a month on residual income. Now something happened to her, and with the company, and the company stopped. That is something that I always recommend to people, that no matter how good you are, make sure that you put money away, and that you learn, so that if anything occurs, because anything can occur anywhere, anytime. And that's why I am a believer that you really should have your own businesses. But you can have multiple businesses like you do. I feel like you have multiple businesses.
Yes.
So you don't just depend on one, which
That's
is
right.
Actually, this is something that makes you feel secure. So one of the things that occurs, though, is that the biggest mistake that people make in network marketing is that they think that the company is going to do it for them. And the company has, I have been to so many meetings. I'm actually fascinated, just so you know. I go because, number one, all my graduates invite me to their meetings, and I like to go because I go, what kind of a system do you have? How does it work? I'm almost like an expert on network marketing because of all I studied, but I'm not really. And everybody wants me to go in because I'm so good at enrolling people. But I'm enrolling them on a much bigger vision, which is to eradicate poverty and hunger. It's my destiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have already set up the system in place that I get residual income, just like a network marketing company, except it's through my licenses. But one of the things, the biggest mistake is when you forget that you are it. You are the CEO of your life. If you go to moneyandyou.com, you will find there's a 4-session business makeover. And in there, the first one my friend Maria Simone did was on being the CEO of your own life. And so it's money and you. It's money and you. So I want you to come to Money and You because you will learn so much. I want you to come on Monday and pass the word to all your friends, because maybe we'll have an opportunity for you to put in questions and things. But that's when we're going to be talking about what happens, how the distinctions I learned. And then what we're going to be doing, and then we're going to, the following Wednesday, we're going to be talking about picking yourself up. Picking yourself up. When you hit that wall, whether you are in a network marketing company, real estate, education, you are the biggest guru or whatever, you will hit the wall. We all hit the wall.
Hit the wall.
Met anybody that didn't hit the wall? And I can't stand it when people try to teach others and pretend that they don't hit walls, that their system is going to be so perfect that they're not going to suffer. There is no such thing, and I'm sorry to be the one that gives you the bad news, but life is life, and we're going to go through sadness. We're going to go through pain. We're going to make mistakes. The biggest thing is, how do you handle the mistakes? How do you pick yourself up? We're going to be doing that next Wednesday. And then we're going to have one more, possibly 2 more. I'd love to do this before we get to Money and You. But you is 3.5 days of this, but different.
What would you say, DC? I mean, that is some really powerful information about making mistakes. What would you say about people who are afraid to take a risk on themselves? They think it would be a mistake, like they'll lose by investing in themselves. Because we know, of course, it is an investment for them to be a part of the Money and You program. We know that it comes with a lifetime alumni where you're a graduate and you can go to any Money and You all over the world, and even a money back guarantee, right? But what would you say to people who would say, wait a minute, I don't know about betting on myself for Money and You at this time? Because deservability, we know, is huge. A person would feel like, when you have to think about, should I invest in myself? You're saying, do I deserve it?
Yes.
What you're saying that, do I deserve that? Do I deserve to put my money, the value, that energy, money there, meaning in me? Do I deserve that? What would you say to a person that would say something like that? Like, I don't have the money. We deal with that all the time in network marketing. And we know that being resourceful is a necessity for people to do big things, being resourceful. And I remember, again, I just still remember that very first conversation I had with you, because going into Malaysia was a much larger investment when we talk about the class and the travel and the hotel and everything. And at that moment, I had never made that. I mean, I purchased homes and properties, but I'd never made that type of investment in myself. And ever since then, I've never been afraid to make investments in myself. That's where I put a lot of my money. People go to college and they spend large investments in college and still come out without their jobs that they intended for and everything, because they're programmed. They say, hey, have a good chance here. What do you say to people that don't feel like they have a good chance when they invest in themselves and getting a return?
Well, let me answer one little thing in there.
Yeah.
When they say quote unquote, and God, I'm not saying this, I'm quoting someone. I'm very careful with what I say. When people say quote unquote, I don't have the money, it's actually not true.
Uh-huh.
I want you all to get this. Whenever you're listening to this, even if it's 10 years from today, you're running to this recording somewhere in the internet, that is not true. I don't have the money is not true. Let me go through this a little bit. It's a choice that you're now making, because number one, at all times, what you may not have is access to. You may not have access to. That's why my new definition of wealth is having access to money, investments, resources, experience. If you look around, if you are a little Chinese person in a little hut with nothing there but a little thing, which we were just talking about it the other day, that still happens in China, in India, in Africa, in South America, and in certain places in America, that people just have a room with very little in there. There are people with no electricity, okay? Actually, there's 1.6 billion people without electricity on the planet, but that's another story, okay? So there is money sitting everywhere. There is money that actually you could exchange things for it. This is an interesting dynamic. You will go to some of the poorest families, and I'm going to talk about the US only. When somebody gets sick in a horrible disease, and something will happen, and the family has to come up with the money, they come up with the money. The same thing is a sad thing, but when somebody dies in very poor families, they have to bury somebody. It's incredible. I remember this one family that had very little. They didn't want to bury the person in just a simple coffin. And I'm like going, it's going in the dirt. Who cares? They wanted the best coffin for their beloved. I totally understand that, because I had somebody die on me, and that was important. It's a weird thing that happens to you when somebody that you love dies. So now you have the family gets together, they do something, or somebody breaks a leg. They don't have any money, but somewhere the money comes up so that they can get the cast, they can get this, they can get that. So in emergencies, people seem to access, to think of ways. People will lend it to them. People will give it to them. Now they have crowdfunding. Now they have all these things that they can do. So actually that you don't have the money is not true. I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds crazy, and there will be people that will start arguing for their own limitations right now.
Yeah.
That say, I don't have the money. Yes, you do. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to think about that. Yes, you do. What is it that you have around you? When I look around, I have this I could sell. I know I'll probably only get 50 cents for it, but I could. So money in you begins to work the minute that people offer it to you. It's money in you. So now let's take a look at your self-worth. So when you really get that you are grand central, that you are the CEO, that the biggest thing that you have to guard for yourself is your spirit. This is something I tell people, listen, you can neglect your body, you can neglect your relationships, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and you can bankrupt yourself, you can bankrupt businesses. Never, ever let your spirit be broken. Never let your spirit be bankrupt. Then that is getting very close to the point of no return. This is when we hear about people that take their own lives. That's what makes me the saddest when it has happened to my friends and people that I really loved that have taken their own lives. I go, oh my God, because I know what happened. They lost their spirit. This is something very dangerous. You have to guard your spirit like a guardian angel with a big sword. Your spirit is the most important thing that you have. And you need to take a look right now if you haven't been beat up enough in life, or if you have beaten up yourself enough in life. Whether you do money in you or not, I want you to get this, okay? I really care about, I don't care a lot if people come to money in you. I want everybody to do money in you. But I want people to really get the communication right now that what you need to do is guard that spirit. And there are times when you just need to fill that spirit with love and support from others. You need
Yes.
to fill it with knowledge. You need to fill it with choices. You need to fill it with information. You need to fill it with data that has worked for others. You need to like overflow your cup with experiences, with support, with love, with information, with a network, and say, okay, I'm going to freaking fill myself up because I need it right now. And for those of you that are very filled up and you're really successful, I want to tell you the reason you want to do money in you is because the hardest thing for very successful people is to leverage themselves and to find somebody to duplicate them, which I had that problem. And I think I may have found the person. I'm so excited. I think the person has shown up because I've been looking for years and years and years. And you have to deserve that somebody so honest, so loving, so beautiful will come in and take your place in your organization so that you can have the freedom to go on and do what you really were meant to do.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why you need to come. And some of you cannot afford not to be there because you are tethering in a very weak cord, and it affects marriages, relationship with children, relationship with beloveds, with mothers, with sisters, with family, with best friends, and you need to build up, power up with entrepreneurial
For
education
sure.
and
For
cleanup.
sure. For sure. Wow. Thank you so much, DC. I mean, Money and You was a safe haven for me to break out. You know, people always, I was bold and risky, whatever people would say, but not with strategies. And the systems, the network, and the love that you experience in the rooms at Money and You from people who you would say are strangers. Sometimes people experience more love in that room than they've ever experienced their whole life. And then they start, I would say, they start really living. They start being alive. I remember Wai-Ming, when we were in Malaysia, and he came up on the stage. This is a billionaire who is all about just doing everything for humanity to just be better. He has a solar valley, and DC is working on a large project with him. And I was like, okay, this was my second time meeting a billionaire. I've met many millionaires, but billionaire. And he comes on the stage and he jumps on the stage with all this vigor and all this life. And he says, you know, we know that you're living, but how do you know you're alive? He asked the question, how do you know you're alive? And I started asking myself that. Like, I had left America to go to Malaysia. There was a lot of things that were dead in my life. There was a lot of things that, you know, just were not going right. And I would have rather avoided them, and then began to understand that everything had directed me, brought me all the way across the Southeast Pacific of Asia, that if those things hadn't happened to me, I would not have attended business school Accelerated. I would not have had that thing on side of me to say, I've got to go somewhere. And I would not have gone to Money and You. And then I would not be having this conversation now that we're having right now with DC, because I would not have taken that opportunity. A lot of things have opened up. So now I embrace those challenges. When they start coming about, I'm like, yeah, come on. What's the next level? What is this next thing that's about to happen? I'm excited now because I have a different perspective on it. And so, DC, we're going to make that invitation June 15th through the 18th. Yes, there are people who are waiting on, we got you. You're good. We got you. Okay. You're getting emails today, tomorrow, but act fast. When you get your email, take action. You know, when you get your scholarship. That's not something you want to wait on. So when you do get that link, go ahead and you get that special code, make and take action. We're going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, by the airport. So if you're looking for hotels now, if you want to be by the airport, we will be within minutes from the Atlanta airport. So you'll be okay within minutes from the Atlanta airport. Go ahead and get your rooms situated, and we will be sending out the links, and you'll get your pre-registration package, and we'll see you in just a few weeks. Time is ticking, but I made a large investment in myself. I'd never, ever, ever think anything different. If I had to do it again, I would do it again. I would just do it faster. Like, I had kind of hesitated for a moment. Yes. And now I'm like, what in the world was I denying myself of if I had not attended Money and You? And then how many lives would I not be changing now if I knew that that was my purpose? That was what I was born for. You know, things would be different. I know that for sure. I don't know everything else, but I know things would be different. I'd be probably acting different and doing different things. And I was going through some crazy stuff in my business and personal life. I probably would have not known how to make decisions, and making sure that I was making decisions where I was good with it. So I'm just on 10. I'm pumped up. I'm about to go into a room and now go pump some people up right in the moment. And so this was powerful, DC. Go ahead and email successwithnicola@gmail.com if you haven't already. If you have, myself, Trina, will be getting back with you. If you have not, successwithnicola@gmail.com, put Money and You scholarship. People are getting their links. When you get the link, we're trying to have a group of people. If you got 10 or more, of course, you get a nicer scholarship. If you got 10 or more people, you want to come as a group. Think about putting some people together. Say, hey, I got 10 people that's coming together. What could we do about that? And so with all of that being said, guys, we want to see you next time. We're going to be back on Monday, and we're going to be talking some more deep stuff, right? Yeah. This has been good. This has been fun.
I'm going to tell stories about my network marketers.
Oh, wow. Don't miss it. Monday at 7 p.m. Okay. Thank you, DC.
Atlanta time. Bye,
Atlanta time. Yes, Atlanta time. Take care, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right.